That wasn't the plan.
Hi, Emily. My God, hi.
Hi,
You
Courtney
look
Holland.
good.
How are you?
I'm good, Emily White lady.
Good. White lady.
Yeah.
That's true. Very true.
You're white. I'm also white. Here we are. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday to all of our listeners. Thank you for tuning into That Wasn't the Plan. We are your hosts, Courtney Holland and Emily White.
Yes.
Did you have a good week, Courtney?
I had as usual, no moment of rest. We have a new puppy and she's hectic, but then turns out she got marijuana poisoning on Wednesday.
no.
Had to rush her to the emergency room because I thought she was having a seizure because she was like, and then she just kept wanting to go to the drive-thru. She wanted to go to Taco Bell. And I was like, what's going on?
She's like, give me that 7-layer burrito.
Well, I took her to the vet, and the vet was like, I've never met this vet. And he was like, I'm not trying to offend you, but is there any possibility that your dog got a hold of some marijuana? And I was like, well, I certainly haven't had marijuana anywhere around me. My husband doesn't smoke marijuana, but there are teenagers in the house. So, and it's the end of the school year. So something got left out. He said it was a small amount. So it was really, she would have been fine. But I'm just glad that, that was all it was. Cause I was like, oh my God, what if this dog has a brain tumor? Like, oh Lord.
Yeah.
So that was
I'm
exciting. And there were some
sorry.
conversations had with those in the
I'm
house.
sure. Mm-hmm. Is it
So,
legal
yeah.
where you're at in Virginia?
I think it is in some ways, but not for high schoolers.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, so how about you? How was your week? Any squirrels do some cocaine around your house or?
Yeah, they're just doing rails out on my front porch.
I would not be surprised to find out that all squirrels were on some sort of methamphetamine.
Right.
Seriously.
They certainly act like it.
You don't have to live that way, squirrels. Yeah.
Well, on another note, we have a really fascinating guest with us today.
So excited.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear this story. Today, we have Richard Ault with us. His coworkers, his coworkers have called him the most interesting person in the world.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All right, Richard.
Yeah, Richard is a biologist by training, a technologist by accident. Here's the short story. Richard was the VP of product at Napster during one of the most chaotic and frankly fascinating moments in the history of the music industry. Remember Napster?
Freaking legend!
Yeah.
What?
Before that, he helped build MyPlay, which is essentially iCloud about 5 years before the world was ready for it.
Wow.
He has spent time in the Arctic studying climate change. He is a surfer and a surf photographer. And then, because that wasn't the plan, life had some other ideas for him. Richard went through addiction, a financial collapse, and now he teaches climate science and biology to high schoolers at the Bay School in San Francisco. And the school has a motto that I think really tells you everything you need to know about who Richard is and why he ended up there. This is their motto.
Yes.
Through any challenge I may face, succeed or fail, I will be okay.
Oh my gosh. For high schoolers, that's phenomenal.
I know. So
what a great.
Yeah. Richard, welcome to the podcast.
Wow.
Thank you. Nice to see
You're
you
living
guys.
up to that title. Wow.
Yeah, it feels like the universe did have a plan and I just didn't know what it was.
Of course. That's incredible. I got 204 questions off the bat, but I will let you tell your story. But my gosh, so many things I want to grab on and talk about. But I will play chill. I will play chill.
No, Courtney plays Courtney.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this.
Oh my gosh. Napster? What?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where to start.
Well, how about you take us back to the kid version of you? Like, where did you grow up and what was home like? And you mentioned something about your father not being there for 3 years.
Yeah.
Tell us everything.
I grew up in a sort of suburban DC, really nice, super nice setting, Bethesda, Maryland, a little neighborhood called Woodacres that was really, geez, I don't know how to describe it. It was like a 50s TV show, like the streets were filled with kids. It was super Irish Catholic, like every family had like 6 kids, and so really, literally, the kids were running the show in the neighborhood. A lot
Wow.
of latchkey kids. I was a latchkey kid myself,
Yeah.
from about the age of 10. Um, yeah, my parents were not a good match. Like, I think a lot of families in the '60s, maybe, uh, people got married before actually examining who they were getting married to, and a lot of these people were wise enough to not stick it out. I feel, like, grateful that my
Mm.
parents didn't try and fake it, during
Yeah.
that time,
Yeah.
but I also, basically grew up without a father, which I don't really consider any kind of a handicap. I mean, he was there until I was about 9, and then the static started. But I have,
Mm.
2 sisters, my mother, and 4 aunts, and my grandmother who was on the
Yeah.
scene. So I was surrounded by strong women that sorta taught me how to be
Oh,
in this world.
wonderful.
And
Yes.
that I think was a huge advantage for me as a young
Mhm.
person. I didn't feel like I had to conform to, what male norms might be. I didn't, wear dresses or anything, but I didn't, also didn't, see women as like, I think the way other boys that I was growing up with did. Um,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that. I remember my grandmother once giving me a pretty firm smack when she heard that I had tipped a cow. And with a couple of good friends, we had gone into Northern Virginia, which is where her property was, and tipped a cow. And I was laughing about it with my best friend, and then I felt the back of my head, a sharp pain in the back of my head, and it was my grandmother, and she was really a pretty firm adherent to all creatures great and small, and I think that very much, sort of impacted me as a young person because I chose biology because I'm super curious about living things, and
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Wow.
it takes is that one person, that one moment to kind of set you straight. I've had so many like that in my life where I'll say something and then that one gesture, that one sentence, that one comeback, and it completely just changes my perspective on everything.
yeah, yeah.
Does it
Dottie
hurt the cows when they get tipped?
Yeah, so they can it turns out I didn't know this, of course, because 'cause
Yeah.
I'm an idiot, like, 13-year-old kid, 14 maybe. They can suffocate, basically. You can kinda knock the wind out of them, and then they can suffocate on the ground because they
Oh,
sleep
no.
standing up, and
Right.
that's why people tip them. Uh, yeah,
So
so
freaking
it's
awful.
awful. Yeah, it makes me feel like I'm about 80, the fact that I understand how that works.
Well, now I know too, 45 learning it. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
now I will quit tipping all those every day. I'm tipping cows. I'm like, boink, boink, boink. And now I'm like, you
yeah,
know what? Not doing it.
You don't wanna suffocate them.
I'm so,
yeah.
I, it's going to change, well, 80s movies, a lot of movies had like, "Ugh, tip cows, like that's really the only times I've ever heard of it. And I love that she smacked you for hurting a cow. Like,
Yeah,
Mhm.
I,
she was
I
right to
think
do
that's
it.
pretty great.
I mean, she was like salt of the earth, like you would
Yeah.
expect. She ran a farm. She had sheep and chickens, and I learned how to slaughter chickens. I didn't have to slaughter sheep, which is great because they're too, cute. Chickens,
Yeah.
I don't know so much, but
Yeah.
I got to interact with some chickens in a cardboard box in a garage 2 nights ago, which was pretty cute.
How
yeah, they
was
can be
that date?
cute. I thought it
I
was a
was in
date.
yeah.
Jeez.
She's back
Someone
on
was like,
Tinder.
"Come over and look at my chickens." No, we were we were at like sort of like an alumni event for my boyfriend, and I walked out into the garage. My boyfriend was going to go look at the basketball court, and all of a sudden there were chickens in a box right in front of me, and I was like, "See
Ooh,
you later."
later.
I would have been in there all night had I known there were chickens in the garage.
Were they
But yeah,
chicks or were they actually full grown chickens?
they were in between. They were teenagers.
Oh, so they were really ugly. That's when they're like
No, there
super
were
like,
well,
"Ugh."
it's funny because they're close to being the size of a real chicken, but they're really long. Like they're kind of I don't know, it's like silly putty when you spread it out. It's not
Mm.
quite it's like one of
Silly
those
putty
rubber
chickens. Yes, yes.
yeah, it's like one of those rubber chickens, with the long
Right.
necks. That's exactly what they reminded me of. Anyway,
Wow.
back to Richard.
Sorry. Sorry, Richard. You did it to us. You started
Yeah,
talking
this
about
is an occupational hazard. So you were raised by sounds like what, 6 to 8 very strong women. Your
Yeah.
dad your dad did come back. Were your parents married when he came back, or what did that look
No,
like?
so, yeah, when I was about 8 or 9, they were, at each other's throats, didn't,
Okay.
sorta I think that, you know, I didn't you don't need to be a genius. I think my sister was born 6 months after my parents got married, so I
Mm.
understand
Oh,
why
wow.
they got married.
Mm.
My older sister, but then my younger sister and I were born, like, bam, bam, right after each other. We're only a year apart, a year and a week or so. Um, and I think it was just too much for all of them. I think as an adult, I've learned to forgive them for their shortcomings. I mean, they're just people, you know?
Right.
And, uh, but yeah, I still, I'd be lying if I said that I don't resent him, but I'm sad that I never got to know him.
Mm.
I was able to be there on his deathbed when he passed, and that was great. I got to say goodbye to him, and that was actually we just we just honored the 28th anniversary of his death. Was
Oh,
Memorial Day. He passed on Memorial Day, and so
Wow.
I was grateful to be in a place that I love up in the mountains, and my sisters and I exchanged, some nice texts with each other, like favorite memories of him. And
Mhm.
um, but yeah, as an adult, I never got to know him. He passed away when I was 30, right around the time I got married. Yeah, so he didn't get to know that I became a father. He didn't get to. He became a grandfather successfully before he passed, but he also didn't take care of himself, and he isolated himself from the rest of the family. So
Mm.
um, I'm just grateful that I'm not him, and I'm grateful that there are parts of me that are him, because I remember when he passed, hundreds of people showed up at his memorial, people that I'd never met,
oh,
and some people that I
wow.
had met. And I think at the time I was pretty bitter. They would all say things like, "God, your dad was such a funny man and so loving, and I'm so grateful to know him." And I would be like, "Yeah, I wish I did,"
Yeah.
And yeah, I think every kid has to go through something like that, and I think it shapes who we are as adults. And now that I teach kids, like an experience that I guess I'm grateful for in some ways.
Yeah. So, from Washington, D.C., you wound up at San Diego State. What was that journey like from the East Coast to the West Coast? How
Yeah,
did you choose San Diego?
so I went to high school at one of the top high schools in the country, top public high schools in the country. Not that I understood what that meant at the
Right.
time. I think my parents worked pretty hard to put us in a neighborhood where I could go to a really excellent school. And boy, did I make the most of it. I was there for almost 5 years. I uh, I didn't graduate in 4 years. I think I was pretty well entrenched in alcoholism when I was about 16 or 17, and I was drinking
Mm.
3 nights a week in high school.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
And,
Wow.
that was with a group of people that were the same as me, and we all,
Yeah.
had a lot of consequences from that. I was on a first name basis with Officer Greg Ballard of the Bethesda Police Department.
Yeah, you still
Um,
got it.
yeah, I
Holler.
mean, this guy knew where I lived, and he would call our house and be like, "I know what's going on this weekend, and I don't wanna see you there," that kind of thing. And,
Oh,
um,
he was trying to look out for you as well.
I
That's
think
pretty
so.
cool.
I didn't at the time, I just saw him as a threat.
Of
And,
course.
he's the guy that made me mow the grass in the public parks with a push mower in the summer.
Oof.
I spent my summers doing community service. And,
Woof.
you know, the
Adios, Mio.
again, but it's like there's a lot of entitlement in that. I was lucky that I grew up in such a, like,
Mhm.
sort of an enclave that had, like, an understanding that kids get wild. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
there were, like, avenues to help me get, sort of put back and on the right path. And yeah, I mean, school has always been a challenge for me. I think before I even got to high school, I ended up in a correctional school right out of elementary school. I
Oh,
At the
Oh.
snap.
time that my parents were going through a divorce, I was acting out. And,
Mm.
I didn't
Gosh.
know what to do with all of the anger and the pain that I was feeling. And
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
sent me to a school that quite literally had a rubber room, like a place where
Right.
they would sort of, if kids couldn't calm down, they would put them in this room.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I met a guy though. I met a teacher, Dr. Moore. George Moore, who I feel ashamed that I haven't looked up in a very long time. He's probably not with us still, but that man gave me a sense of self-worth and
Oh,
Mm,
something that my parents couldn't do, and,
oh,
I think when I left that school, I understood that I was working on myself. I wasn't, sort of taking classes in a performative sense that because it was what was expected of me.
right.
I was doing school because it was it was a stepping stone to something greater. And
Mhm.
but I returned to the public high schools after spending a couple of years at this other school, and it was called Mark Twain was the name of the school. And when I
Oh.
arrived at the other high school, I found out that the kids, they nicknamed us, Twainiacs, which was, sort of not endearing, but as a kind of a rough and
That's
tumble
hilarious.
teen, I used it to my advantage. I was like, "You're damn right, I'm a Twainiac. You don't wanna push your luck with me."
Yeah.
whoa, good for you.
Yeah,
I'm a mama Twainiac.
yeah.
Gosh. And that was in Bethesda, Maryland, the
That
Mark
was in
Twain School?
Bethesda. The school was in I think the school was in maybe in Rockville or Gaithersburg because I remember
Okay.
having to take a bus to get there, and it was quite a
Yeah.
trip.
It sounds familiar. I went to school in Fairfax County in Northern Virginia, in, like,
Mhm.
Centerville, so that all sounds Mark Twain sounds very familiar to me. I didn't know the Twainiacs, though. I feel like that would have really stuck with me.
Yeah,
That's
and I mean,
hilarious.
again, it's like I think a lot of the kids that are in that circumstance that I was in would have ended up in juvie,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
ended up in a school that gave me another chance.
Right?
And that was amazing, and,
Mm.
as an adult, again, I think it's really shaped me when I'm working with kids, when
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can look at their predicament and think to myself, "I think I've been there before." I think,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, I know that it's different for them, the kids today,
Mhm.
but there are still some elements that are common, and,
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Something
I
relatable.
Yeah. I went to a football game well, a lot of football games, but a high school football game, and I would just walk around because sitting watching football is not my bag, and, I would just hear the conversations and see the kids. They were dressed just like we were, and they were talking about the stuff we always talked about, like, it was all the same, so I was like, "The phones, yes, way different, adds a new element of stress and communication that we didn't have, but, it's all still really the same.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
nervousness, like, it's just wild, so it's not that
Yeah.
different, I found.
Richard, did you get pretty good grades in high school?
I failed algebra twice.
Nice.
Um, I got no, I got 1 A, in my high school career, and it was in anthropology, and it's because I absolutely love the
Ah,
teacher.
That's
Um,
incredible.
God, that makes
what's his
a
name?
world of difference is the
Uh-huh.
teacher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I graduated and I wanted to study anthropology. I just was like,
So
"He's the
cool.
coolest." I think his name was Carrie Wilson? I'd have to go back and look it up. I mean, the fact that my high school offered a class in anthropology, it was
That's
just
cool.
That's
I think I
really
did
awesome.
one of my old friends reminded me that I did pretty well in English arts, like I
Mm.
was she said I was writing poetry. I don't think I was writing poetry. I don't that doesn't sound like me. That's pretty far from my experience, but if that's how she remembers it, I'm not
Right?
sure. Um, I was not a great science student, which I think is
Oh,
fascinating, was not I
Yeah.
didn't consider myself a scientist because I couldn't do I was found
Mm.
math really challenging.
Same
Um,
here.
yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, but yeah, no, I did not get good grades. They held me back a year, and
Okay.
in that 2nd year, they graduated me halfway through the year. The principal, I remember sort of famously telling me, like, "I'm gonna graduate you now. You can walk in the spring with your sister if that's what you wanna do," do, because my younger sister is a year behind me. I
Oh
know that
gosh.
humiliated her, and to this
Oh.
day, still, feel a little bit of shame. Um,
Oh.
I think we're grown adults now, but, yeah, that was not I feel I felt for her, I didn't at the
Oh
time, but I do
god.
now.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was like, "Just don't ever come back." It was really that kind of a conversation, like,
I never wanna
you
see you
know
again.
yeah, and, so we pulled, some senior pranks, and I spent some time with Officer Ballard, and then I was gone. I went to, University of Maryland briefly,
Oh.
um, and didn't do very well, was not going to classes, just it was not working out. And after that first year, a close friend of mine, I mean, it was a combination of things. My mother was like, you're partying, and I know what you're doing, and I know you're not doing well at school. I'm going to ask you to start paying rent. And
Oh.
right that same week, a friend of mine was like, "Hey, I'm gonna drive to Los Angeles this summer and hang out with my father who lives in Venice." And I'm like, "I wanna see
Ooh,
California. If I'm gonna pay
hell yeah.
rent, I think I'll pay rent out there." And that ended up in a cross country trip, in a really old Toyota Jeep type thing that was
Wow.
I can't believe it made it. And we got there, and I remember driving into the Los Angeles basin. I think it was 1988, and it was, sort of August, and we're coming down from the mountains that are sort of like, on the outskirts of the Los Angeles basin, and you could not see LA. It was just a blanket of smog,
Oh,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
all the
disgusting.
way to
Yeah.
the coastline, and that was 1988, and I remember thinking,
Jeez.
"What am I doing? This is this
Yeah.
I ca now I'm here, what am I gonna do? Like, this is insane." I lived in Venice Beach for, like, about 6 months, and then started visiting people that I knew up and down the coast. I ended up
Okay.
in Dana Point for a little while, and that was just
Oh, wow.
a beautiful place in the late '80s,
Yeah.
like, just so beautiful and not as developed as it is now.
Mm.
Sure.
And then eventually made my way down to San Diego and started to look for a place to live, and walked into an apartment. And this has been a very common theme in my life that I just have, for better or worse, I guess, gone with the flow. And um, I walked into an apartment that a bunch of UC students were looking for a housemate, and one of them was my best friend from middle school.
No
And
way.
yeah, he was attending
How?
UC San Diego, and I hadn't talked to him in a few years. I didn't know that he was there. And
That's so crazy.
I walked into this place, and I'm like, "I think I found where I'm gonna live for a little while."
Awesome.
And so I moved in, and
Wow.
he's somebody his name is Jeremy, and he's been at probably the most important times in my life, has always been there.
Wow.
Oh, I love
How
that's
cool.
incredible.
Seriously,
So
West Coast, East Coast, West Coast, like, what?
Yeah, I as a recovering alcoholic, I have a sense that I can be very self-centered, and, I have these moments when I think about, like, how much the universe has taken care of me,
Right.
and he's one of those people that's part of that pantheon of people that
mm,
has always been there. And, at that time, he was such a positive influence. I was working for a sports shop, and he's like, Is that what you want to do? You want to, like, be making $20,000 or $15,000 a year for the rest of your life?" And answering to people like at a retail environment, I have a deep respect for people that do that work. And, because people are not nice to people often,
yep.
and,
Oh, gosh.
in that circumstance. And I don't understand why,
Yeah.
having been on both sides of it a lot. And, but yeah, he talked me into going back to school, and I did. I went to the community college down there, and I got a few of my general ed requirements out of the way. And then I went back to San Diego State and got a degree in biology. And, um,
Wow.
yeah, it was incredible. I met a bunch of bio nerds that I fell in love with, all these people. And,
Yeah.
um, one of them was, a principal investigator on a project that nobody was really talking about. He was studying climate change, and
Oh,
this
wow.
is 1989, 1990 now. And,
Okay.
yeah, he's getting all this money from the Department of Energy and the National Science Foundation, and he's like, "I need people to go to the Arctic," and, can 'cause, he's running all these projects up there because it's such a sensitive ecosystem that's only awake for 4 months out of the year, and so it's a really ideal place to be doing science,
Right.
especially ecological science and climate change and Earth systems. And, I got hooked up with that, and next thing I know, I'm on a plane to the Arctic,
What? It's
that was
Oh.
yeah, it was incredible. It's such a to spend 3.5 months, 4 months with the same 3 people does something
Ooh,
to you,
And
like
24
yeah.
hours a day, yeah.
yeah,
Woohoo!
and I mean, there's nobody else. It's like when we
Oh,
were up
man.
there, there were the people that worked on the oil fields that we would see every 3rd week because we would be on the oil fields, but the rest of the time we were just out on the tundra
Okay.
and, living out of tents in places called, like, Happy Valley and Toolik Lake, and,
Wow. How
they
close to the north?
are oh, how close to the North Pole?
Yeah.
Yeah, um, close enough that compasses get weird. Um,
Woo, I just got
it's
goosebumps.
yeah, it's we're well above tree line, and so tree line is just north of Fairbanks. So as you're
Okay.
driving sort of north up the state of Alaska, about halfway through, you get to Fairbanks, and just north of Fairbanks, well, there's only one road that goes all the way to the North Coast, and it's called the Haul Road. And because it's just trucks hauling stuff back and forth between the oil
Oh,
fields and Fairbanks. Um, but the tree line is about 100 miles north of Fairbanks, and then a couple hundred miles north, and that is above the Arctic Circle at that point. The Arctic
okay.
Circle is kind of the southernmost border of the Arctic region as it circumnavigates the globe, and, yeah, so we're up there, we're on the coast, and when you're on the coast, you're on the ice pack when we get there, so it's winter when we arrive in May, it's summer in, like, June, July, and then it's
Okay.
fall in August, and then it's winter again in, like, late September, and so you go
Wow.
through all 4 seasons in a period of, like, 4.5 months,
Wow.
and that's why we do
Incredible.
it because, it's a really, well-isolated growing season, so it made perfect sense for the science that we were doing.
Yeah.
Um,
And go ahead,
Wow.
Courtney. Were you going to
Oh,
say
how
something?
old were you at this point?
Yeah.
so I think I was, what, 23?
Oh my
Maybe
gosh.
22?
What an
Oh my god.
experience.
This
Yeah,
is
so,
so
like,
cool.
in the 4 years since I graduated high school a little bit late, I'd gone back to school and gotten a job, working in the biology department as an undergraduate,
Okay.
um, and then I went on after I graduated to continue working for the school, for San Diego State, which was super fun.
So,
Mm,
um, you were in the Arctic studying biology and ecology. Is that the path you wanted to take? I'm curious, like, how did you go from that to running product at Napster? And how
Right?
oh,
old were you then?
again, wow, yeah, it's hard to explain.
Just walk us through, like, I'm sure it was over the course of a decade or so, but
Yeah,
Do you have a
no, I
PowerPoint
mean,
you could
it's
show us?
yeah.
I've
We want it
often
all.
wanted to sit down and draw the timeline, like,
Right?
it does not follow a linear path, it's more
No.
chaos and fractals and, um
But that's the
yeah, so
best.
I was very happy doing what I was doing, but again, like, I started master's work and I got published and it was great, like, I was starting a career in science, and as a research assistant in the Arctic working for postdocs, again, I was confronted with the idea that, like, I'm gonna make, $30,000 a year for the rest of my time unless I become a
Mm,
PhD and I start
Mhm.
teaching, or
yeah.
it's not like a sexy science. It's not like medicine. It's not like I mean, this is at a time when nobody was talking about climate change. It was
Right.
Right.
not like people were like, yeah, that's that weird theory that like somehow we're screwing up the environment. Like, what a strange idea.
Theory. I love it. It's
Yeah.
so I mean, what? But
Yeah.
it's crazy that you were doing it during a time where, like, nobody like, it wasn't like, climate change was not something that was constantly everywhere, like,
Yeah.
pretty wild.
Yeah, and I mean, that's also, like, a thing that I think about often, like, I teach kids about sustainability and climate systems, and they are so fatigued from all of
Yeah.
the doomsaying and all of the
Mhm.
doom and gloom, and
Yeah.
and it's not fair. It's not a reasonable way to be treating the next generation. It's
No.
people I think we have to do a better job of, like, finding the hope and
Absolutely.
understanding where we are making progress because we are making progress and in the right places, the right ways, and I know that we will continue to do that, and, But yeah,
That's
how did I get to technology is a kind of a crazy road. So part of my job at what was called the Global Change Research Group, the GCRG, that was the organization that we had set up at San Diego State to do all of our work. One of the things that I was tasked with, because I was a bit of a computer nerd, was developing the software that we used to crunch all of the data that we were collecting, because these are massive data sets. And there were not like off the shelf software products that we could use to do the
Mm.
types of data manipulations that we were doing. So I worked with a couple of software developers at Moscow State University remotely, and I became kind of a de facto product manager while I was doing my own research work, um, managing this software lifecycle for our own sort of data analysis software package. And it's not how I looked at that experience at the time. I just looked at it as a necessary evil. This is the thing that I have to do for the research group because I have some
Yeah.
domain experience here. But then I went to San Francisco to visit a woman that I had been dating for the previous 2 years. She was moving to San Francisco. It was one of her life dreams. And
Mm.
I think I was pretty deeply in love with her. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna go up there and visit at least. I'll spend a few weeks up there and see what San Francisco is like. And I was up here for, I think it was about 2 weeks in, and we went to, like, a party at somebody's house, and I met this guy, and he was like, I was explaining to him what my job is and what I do on the day to day, and he was like, "You gotta come and work with us at this company that we're starting," and that
Uh,
company was a tech company called CNET, and, so it's 1994, I think it was, and,
Wow.
it was a rooftop party in North Beach. It was like a beautiful night, and
Mhm.
we were drunk, and, yeah, it was a really beautiful time. It was cool, and, um, so I was like, I don't know what to do, like, I think I'll try this out," and I called my principal investigator, and I was like, "I can't be there this year." Um, I'm trying to remember what
Man.
time of year it was, and he was like, I'm warning you, not in a
Mhm.
bad way." He's like, "But, if you take a job with a tech company up there, you're never gonna come back to academia. You're just
uh,
it's
Yeah.
kind of like, just understand that." At the time, I think I was like, "Okay, great." I was like
Yeah. Right.
I was like,
Good.
I'd like to make some money. That doesn't sound too bad." I had
Right.
never I think at that point, like, I had not really ever made any money. Like, and
yeah.
Mhm.
it's my family's not particularly wealthy. We weren't poor either. I think we were largely supported by my grandparents and their success. Um, but within a year, I was making more than both of my parents combined, and that
Wow.
was that was a big change for me.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a huge change for
and
anyone.
Yeah,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Gosh.
And, because the skills that I had were pretty unique, and, at the time, they were very unique. And that I think I was with CNET for 5 years in total, so almost to 2000, and we launched a few companies in that period. I learned, I sort of got my, what my manager would call my MBA on the street. I sort of got
Uh,
my master's in business from doing the work.
Right.
Um and that put me in a place to go and actually raise money and start a company with some people that I had met. And that next company was my play. That was the Digital Music
okay.
Locker,
Ah,
which was sort of like a cloud-based iTunes, and
man.
it was a great idea. And the guys that had come up with that idea, Doug and David, they were smart guys. One of them came from Apple, had worked on the
Mm,
iPod.
Oh,
Remember, at this
wow.
time, the iPod had not launched yet at this
okay.
time
Oh,
in 1999.
wow.
There wasn't an iPhone, there wasn't an iPod.
Right, right.
But digital music was still coming. It was like people had
Mhm.
computers and people were starting to hack devices. I remember a guy
Yep.
brought into
Mm,
our office, like a hard disk that plugged into a car stereo, basically. So it was like digital music in your car. And,
Wow.
this is like 99, 2000, so this guy was way ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Um, And as it turns out, our business was way ahead of the curve, because we had a woman, Hillary Rosen, who was then the head of the RIAA, was kind of an advisor to our company, and she was promising us from the start, "Well, you guys will get licensed. You guys will get licensed. We
Mm,
promise. The record industry loves your model. It's the right one for digital music. We're going to license you." And we had artists on our board. Chuck D was a board member from Public
Whoa.
Enemy, and
whoa.
God,
um,
that's
we
awesome.
had like some hitters. We had put something together that was
Yeah.
meaningful, and the RIAA kind of intentionally kept us at arm's length until we ran out of money.
Oh,
Mm.
And that was awful because, we had employed 100 people at that point,
Gosh.
and we
oh
had
God.
invested, I don't know, 40, $50 million in what we were doing, and it ended up not really being anything. I remember,
Gosh.
sadly, Yahoo offering us a fair amount of money for what the company was at the time, and I don't understand their reasons to this day, but Doug and David turned them down, and I think that may have been a mistake,
Mm,
Yeah.
um, to be generous, and, so I think I was one of the last people to get paid at that company, which I'm
oh
not
wow.
particularly proud of,
Right.
but that's just the way it happened,
Mm.
and at that time, I had made inroads. I knew a bunch of people in venture capital, and a guy that I knew named, Hank Berry, who was at a pretty well-known at the time venture capital firm, Hummer Windblad, had contacted me and said, "What's going on at my play?" And I'm like, "We're shuttering it. We're mothballing the project. We're out of money and we're not getting a license." And he was like, "Do you wanna fight back?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And he's like, "I need some grown-ups to come and run Napster," because Napster was just beginning,
Oh
and,
wow.
he was like the oldest person at Napster at that time, I think, was 24 years old or
Oh
25
boy.
years old. And this was right
Oh,
around the time
boy.
that Sean, who was the founder, Sean Fanning,
Uh-huh.
had brought down Stanford and I think MIT's networks with his product, with the Napster
Wow.
application. Their entire
So great.
networks had crashed, and so that was becoming a news story, like, "What is
Yeah.
Napster? Like, what is
Yeah.
this thing all about?" And, um, so I came and met with Sean and a few other people and joined the company, and that was another just, I'm going with the flow, like, this
Right.
is where the
Yeah.
universe wants me to go, so I'm gonna.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And I mean, there was an aspect of, like, I'm gonna get paid to work on music, and music is something that I've always loved, and
Mhm.
deeply, music is like my therapy and
Mhm.
meditation, and like it is, I think, for many people, and it's also a universal language. I don't think that I can hear music from any culture around the world and fall in love with it just as fast as anybody else can, and I think that that's a pretty magical property of music
For
as an
sure.
art form, and so to
Mhm.
work on it was a great privilege, and I took it that way. I was very serious about it. I think a lot of the guys at Napster, they were very proud of the fact that they were pirates, that they were
Yeah.
flying the pirate flag, and it was,
Absolutely.
I don't
Mhm.
I'm trying to, be mindful of my language, but they were like, "F the record industry," they were like, and at the
Yeah.
time,
I
I
mean,
was like,
really.
yeah, I was like, "Fuck them," because I just, went through 5 years of trying to play fair with them, and they just shut us down,
Seriously.
so
Mm.
I'm happy to join that, but at the same time, I don't wanna, we were building leverage for a negotiation to find some compromise, to find some
Right.
common ground where we can
Yeah.
launch a business. And sadly, we were, like, I love people. I don't know what the analogy is, but when you're the first over the hill, you end up with all the arrows in your back. And
Yeah.
Napster kind
Yeah.
of did that, and Steve Jobs capitalized on it. He
Mm.
scored a record deal with the industry. He was the first to do it.
Mhm.
Because Napster, they basically sued us out of existence.
Yeah.
They wanted
Yeah.
billions of dollars in damages, maybe even hundreds of billions of dollars in
Wow.
damages,
Gross.
for just the brief time that we were up and running. Um, and we offered them licenses that had like upfront payments. I think one of the deals that we put on the table, yeah, I think it had like $4 billion in upfront payments. It was like, we will guarantee you revenue of $4 billion for like the next 2 years, something along those lines. And the record industry was like, no, we're going to keep the leverage that we got and sue you out of existence for copyright
Oh
infringement.
God.
And which is short-sighted in an industry that's well known for short-sightedness, by the
Yeah.
way. Like,
Uh-huh.
I think that the technology completely surprised them, absolutely destroyed the
Yeah.
level playing field that they had manufactured. It was not
Exactly.
truly a reasonable playing
Mm-mm.
field for any artist. And I'm super proud of the role that I played, albeit small,
Heck
and
yeah.
impacting that and getting it so that we could have digital music on our phones. It makes a lot of sense from a consumer standpoint. And um, yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I was flying high. It was fun. I could have any job I wanted after that. I was interviewed for a position to run the Apple Store worldwide.
Whoa.
Dude,
But I didn't wanna make the commute. I was like, I didn't wanna make the commute,
That
so I
sounds
said,
respect.
like me.
"No, this gets worse." A lot of the people that worked for me, went to work for Facebook, this tiny little
Oh,
company
shit.
that had, like, 15 employees, and a friend of mine, John, called me up and said, "Hey, I just passed on a position with this little company, Facebook. I
Oh
know
my
they would
god.
be interested in talking to you. Do you wanna talk to them?" And I'm like, "Where are they located?" And he's like, they're in Mountain View and in Palo Alto." And I'm like, "I don't live in Palo Alto.
Right.
I'm not making that commute. Like, I'm not interested, like,
No,
Yeah.
thanks."
that's a life waster. No way. I think
Yeah,
that's
and,
very smart.
the guys that used to work for me at Napster, one of them lives in, like, a $30 million house, in Pacific Heights, and
Mm.
but that's not again, that's not what the universe has in store for me. If I was meant to be awash in money, then I'd be awash in money,
There
and
you
Right.
go.
I'm
Yeah.
very and this is not to say that that's like, it sounds like, I guess, I don't know, resentment or bittersweet, but I
Mm.
love my life right now. My life is perfect.
Ugh.
Um, and I worked to get here, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Wow.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Seriously. I just love that you were like, "I'm not commuting," because 'cause I've spent 4 hours total in a commute at one point in my life, and
Yeah. Me
it's hard
too.
on the soul. And I was also dealing with addiction at that time too, so I was like, "How am I not going to get
Right.
messed up while I'm driving?" Like, how could I not?
So, Richard,
Yeah.
were you drinking throughout all this as well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how to describe this. Like, I was not like a falling down drunk, like the way I was in high school.
You're functioning.
Um, yeah, I mean, people use the term high functioning alcoholic, and I think that is a ridiculous term because, um,
Yeah.
like, alcoholism is an anchor that we like
Mhm.
attach to our soul, and
God,
it's
that's a
it's it is not like you can't be high functioning when you're dragging this anchor around, it just means that you're handicapped. Your handicap
Mhm.
is your alcoholism, and, nobody chooses to be an alcoholic. I don't mean it in that sense that, like, people it's not a moral failing. At this point in my life, I saw that my father was definitely an alcoholic. He didn't
Mm,
choose to be.
Mm.
Um, it's more like an illness that he had, and, I've learned that there's the physical, there's the what they call the tissue, addiction, which is like I needed alcohol every week, and I was, drinking probably 2 or 3 nights out of every week. Sometimes I would get falling down drunk.
Mhm.
I would do what's called an Irish exit from most of the dinner parties that I went to, right?
Amen.
mhm.
Like, I would disappear so I could go drink alone.
Yep.
Ah,
Um or I would pass out on the sofa famously. I would be my ex-wife, like, I will be making amends to her for the rest of my life for all the, nutty things that I did when I was married to her,
Mm.
and my kids too. Like, I did things that are awful, like shameful things that I will now spend the rest of my life trying to live down, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to do that, so that I
Mhm.
can show them that there's another way in the off chance that this happens to them. But yeah, it was not like I was falling down drunk. I certainly was making plenty of money. We bought a home in San Francisco. On the surface, everything's great.
Yeah.
Everything's great. Richard's fine, you know? But I don't think I was ever as unhappy as I was when I was bouncing from tech company to tech company, getting like ever higher on the corporate ladder. I was getting emptier and emptier and emptier. And
Ah.
and it was like it was a race to the bottom for most of these tech companies. It was how quick can we get our product to market? It doesn't matter if our product had any meaning at all, like in any context. Is it useful for anybody? It doesn't matter. Is there a market for it? Get it out there, get it as big as possible, and take your company public, and everybody gets wealthy, and then go on and do it again.
Yeah.
And and
Interesting.
that's what the game was like for a decade there in the early noughts, the late 90s.
Mhm.
Not so much in the late 90s. It was a slow turning, I think. Things,
Mhm.
I think there was a lot of people the people that I started technology with in the 90s at CNET, I think that we very much believed that what we were building could change the world. Like, I
Yeah.
think I remember thinking to myself, like, never before in the history of the world has there been a time when I could type something into a computer window and somebody could see it all the way around the globe and a second later, like that was I
Unreal.
knew that that could change the world in many different ways, whether it's
Mm,
just the sharing of information or the sharing of culture or
mhm,
entertainment or, in medicine, like in so many different ways. And I'm very glad that I got to be a part of that too, because we did change the world. And then a bunch of people got rich doing it. And that's gonna happen. We live in a capitalistic
Yeah.
society, and I think capitalism's broken, and there's a lot of evidence, like the wealth inequity, there's just tons of evidence that capitalism is not working right now. And, so to be a part of something that could generate that much wealth was great, but it's also a double-edged sword. I'm hoping that at some point before I die, that this will equalize and that we'll start to see things get spread more evenly across the world, you know?
mm,
I think the world that we live in right now is kinda sad in some ways, like, the wealth of this nation being pulled back from US aid. Hundreds of
Mm.
thousands of people around the world will die because we're unwilling to share the wealth that we have in this country, and that makes me profoundly sad.
mm,
Um, but I've gotten off track, right? So, like, I was losing my soul. I was really profoundly sad, and, I think for me, it really where things went off the rails for me, I had an accident, snowboarding again, like, total privilege. I shattered my tailbone, which hurts like
Oof.
hell, and I was in the ER up in Tahoe, and they shot me up with almost a full dose of morphine, and I met my
Lord.
maker, like, in that moment.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
met my maker, and I knew that that's the way I wanted to feel for the rest of my days.
Uh,
Like, I wanted to feel the way I felt when they shot me up with morphine, and,
Mm,
that led to a really severe pill addiction, and,
mm.
I almost lost everything. I almost lost everything, and yeah, I've been given a second chance, and not everybody gets that.
Wow.
so was that the time were you addicted to pills kind of around the same time you walked away from tech? Did that all kind of
Yes.
happen at the same time?
Ah.
Yeah, so that was the sort of inflection point.
Okay.
I went to a rehab facility here in San Francisco and got clean, and, back in April of this year, April 13th, I celebrated 13 years clean and
Oof.
sober, and that was yeah, in this era, having an addiction is almost like a death sentence because of fentanyl, and,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I'm super grateful. Yeah, and so had been working in tech companies, and I think at that point I had burned some bridges. Like the last company that I worked for was a sort of a Facebook marketing company, and they were doing good work and they were good people, and I was just a drag on the operation because I was nodding off at my desk. I was not there. I was not present, and And it's a shame because, they had made an investment in me and,
Mm.
I didn't follow through. And I realized at that point I needed to do something that, really sort of gave me a sense of satisfaction that isn't about the rat race that was around me. And, again, going with the flow, um, I had mothballed a company. It was in my it was in my second year of sobriety. I had been doing really just contracting type work with smaller tech companies, helping them lay plans to go to market and things like this. I was at a picnic with a woman that I was dating at the time. Her son was getting ready to go to a high school here in San Francisco, and I bumped into the principal and just started to chat with him, and he says, "I would give my left leg to have somebody teach biology to these kids in the fall because I just had a teacher walk out on me." And I
Wow.
was like it's like, "Ooh." I was like, I wonder if that's me. I wonder if I could be a high school teacher, which is just a ridiculous idea thinking about how I was in high school,
Right?
and my PI, my PI was like, "You'll never come back to academia." And there was this tiny little opening, and I was like, "Well, what have I got to lose? Like, I've got nothing to lose, literally.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so why don't I just give this a shot?" Because I didn't want to go and sign a new contract with anybody else. I was like,
Mhm.
I needed to find something else to do to sort of make
Wow.
me, start making myself whole again. And
And it found you.
Yeah.
yeah,
But you
yeah.
struggled right before you found that teaching job, is that right? There were a
Well,
few years there?
no, well, I mean, like, during COVID, like, that
Okay.
was
Mhm.
rough. Like, I went back to work, I went to work for the San Francisco Unified School District, and
Okay.
nobody gets rich teaching, right? So, I was living in part off of savings. I was living at, like, this kinda standard, and I was making, like, this kind of income,
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
because I'd been in tech for so long. I'm, like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
driving a
you're
nice
used to
car,
that
and
lifestyle.
I'm renting the big house, and I'm taking
Mhm.
my kids on these nice trips, and, supporting all that, and I dug a pretty deep hole, and, in my 3rd year of teaching, COVID hit. Like, I started teaching
Mm.
in 2016,
Oh
Okay.
my god.
16, yeah. So then
Wow.
2019 comes, and it's like the school district shuts down, and they're like,
Mm,
"We can't place you in another school unless you get." So I don't have a master's in education.
mm,
I'm not allowed to teach in the state of California, um, which is a deep irony. I mean, well,
mhm.
in a public school setting,
Right,
in a
right.
public school, I ended up, having to file bankruptcy, actually. Like,
Oh.
I was having trouble paying my rent. I, uh, coming all the way back around to where we were at the beginning, I, uh I ended up, sending my kids to live full time with their mother.
Mm.
We had been 50-50 up until that time, and I moved in with my friend Jeremy because I was going to move into my car. Um, and I called
Hi,
him and asked
Jeremy.
him
Yes.
Yeah, I asked him if I could store some things in his garage, and he said, "Yeah, of course. Why? What's going on?" And I said, "Well, I gotta move into my car for a little while, like,
Oh my
because I
god.
haven't been able to find work." And I owe my
Oh.
landlord a ton of rent, and I can't keep digging this hole, and I'm gonna file bankruptcy, and, yeah, that sucked.
Mm,
That was
Yeah.
awful. Um,
mm.
and I think that, at this point, I'm like 5 years sober, 4 years
Yeah,
sober,
that's what's crazy.
Yeah.
You're
and
sober and you have to go through that.
yeah,
Mm,
I mean, it's like a lot of people talk about how the consequences of their life hit when they're first getting sober. It's like
right.
everything catches up with
Mm.
you. And there was a lifetime for me, I think. And it's not like
Mhm.
this was directly related to my drinking and using, but like, um, yeah, it was not an easy time. It was, I went and I worked at REI in Berkeley for a couple of months. I drove an Uber for a little while.
Nice.
I just I thank my sister for helping me find the strength to just do whatever I needed to do to keep going. She said to me, I said, "I felt like I'm failing my kids."
Mm.
Mm. Mm.
And she said, uh, "No, you're doing what it takes.
Mm.
You're showing them that you're doing what it takes."
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I'd gone from being like, an executive at a tech company to driving an Uber. It's a pretty precipitous fall.
mm, mm.
Um,
And you stayed sober.
and I stayed sober.
Unbelievable. That's power.
Yeah, and it's not me, it's people have taught me.
Mm,
I think I've heard people say that, like, the cure for addiction is connection,
mm,
and, I think that's true. I know it's true for me that, like, if I withdraw, that's a dangerous place for me,
mhm,
that I have to stay connected, I think that God or the universe or whatever people wanna call it, like, it wasn't my doing, brought me back to teaching pretty quick. Like, I found a position at an independent school that paid very well, to teach computer science, and I took that job, and that job led to the job that I have now, which is, I've been teaching for the same school for 5 years, going into my 6th year, and it's exactly where I'm supposed to be.
wow. That's just full circle, and you came back around, and now
Mhm.
you are, for other students, what you got, those moments with the anthropology teacher, and holy smokes, I got goosebumps, like,
And you
sheesh.
have, would you say, the best job of your entire life right now?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that, I'll say that to my kids and they think I'm just being coy, or like that I'm just playing a game, but no, this is where I'm supposed to be. I feel it's such a buzz for me when the kids tell me that, "Oh god, you made me curious," like for the first time in my life, like about, something, or "Thank you for help." I got a note from a kid just the other day, a student that I just taught, and she wrote to me that, like a little thank you card that, not a big deal, but she wrote, like, "You made me feel comfortable enough to speak up in class, and I've never been able to do that, and I wanted to thank you for helping me get there."
Oh my god.
Wow. Wow. What a oh, man. I wish
Seriously.
I was smart enough at that age to write a letter
I
like that.
know.
That's powerful.
Yeah, I'm like, they're little adults, and I treat them that way, and I think they appreciate that, like,
That's the difference.
because I was no dummy when I was their age, like, I knew exactly what I was doing. I
Yeah.
didn't have the
Yeah.
wits to make good choices, and neither do they. But but I knew what was going on. I knew what was
Right.
going on, and I understood things, and I think often we confuse those things. Like, the fact that they can't make good choices does not mean that they don't understand how the world works.
Right.
Right, right.
It's just so hard when you're that it's so hard being a kid, and your brain pulls you in so many different directions, like, I was reflecting with my mom, about, like, how she'd ask me just to put my dish in the dishwasher, and for some reason, I'd be like, "Of course, why wouldn't I?" And then I never would. It's because your little brain is my brain was like, "Doom, doom, 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 doom," feelings,
Yeah,
feelings, feelings, and it's just so hard. I'm
yeah,
so glad I'm not a kid anymore. I much
yeah,
prefer being an adult because it's hard, it's confusing, and just that, you gave space for that particular student to be brave enough to speak up and to be heard, and,
Yeah.
that's just huge. Like,
yeah. Well, it's the job, and it's easy. Like, it's not a difficult job. It's just like, I think it's just a choice to be present and to do
yeah.
the right thing,
Yeah.
like, to not
Mhm.
get caught up in my own petty shit, like, let
Mhm.
go of those things and make myself available to these kids because they are the thing that helps me go to the next
Yeah.
day and wake up the next day thinking that there's something exciting is gonna happen, like,
Yeah.
and it's not always like, I've had plenty of ups and downs. Like
Sure.
I think in 2013 I got hit by a car on my motorcycle and I spent some time in the hospital and like
Oh
that was no
Oh
fun.
my
Like last summer I had both hips replaced, two
god.
surgeries back to back. Like, but I mean this
Richard.
year this year I got to hike to almost 12,000 feet with these kids like just 2 weeks
Wow.
ago, and that was super fun. And
Oh my You're gonna be
Yeah.
like, "And I don't have legs anymore, I gave my legs away. I'm actually missing," and
well,
it's
that was my
incredible.
fun question. So I'll start class some days with it's funny that you say that. I'll start class some days with like, at the beginning of the year, it was like, so what was the highlight of your summer? And
Yeah.
they would all say, I did this, like we went to Yosemite or we went to Yellowstone or like a lot of fun stuff. And I said, I had both of my legs cut off. And they're like, no. And I'm like, yeah, actually I did. I
These aren't even
did.
real legs. I freaking did, yeah. Yeah, kids, well, I got hit by a car on my motorcycle.
Yeah.
How about that?
Oh,
Wow.
Richard, do you have anything else you want to share with us?
I'm ready.
You are the
Second
most interesting person.
No, I'm not.
100%.
Definitely.
No,
Good
I
lord.
am the benefactor of meeting the most interesting people in the world. That's what's
Okay.
happened.
Oh, okay. So to go with the flow instead of fight against the
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. Just thank you. Like, it's been fun talking about this. I try not to sit and think about myself all the time
Right,
because I don't think
right.
that that's a safe space often.
No.
No.
It's much healthier and easier for me to wanna hear from others and hear what's going on with them, and
Absolutely.
that's
Well,
really been helpful.
we have one
It's
more
so
question to ask you.
yes. 2, actually. We have 2 questions. This just really quick, I'm just coming up with this one now. What's your favorite band? If you could see any of your favorite band, like, what's your favorite band?
That's interesting.
You gotta pick one.
Well, if you I don't think that this is what you guys the kids like to say, "Oh, yeah, Mr. Alt's the most chill teacher I've ever
You're
met." But, like,
totally chill.
Jeremy and I, are both Jeremy my friend Jeremy Bergsman, who, like, my oldest friend in the world, he and I are both huge, super fans of the band Tool, which is this, like, grinding metal,
Oh, I know Tool, yeah. Hell
like,
yeah.
just
Hell
singing
yeah.
about, like, crazy things, like,
I knew it.
really
I
stuff I
was
don't wanna
not
talk about with
expecting
other people,
Tool.
but I think they're astonishing musicians, and,
They are.
I mean, this is also something I shared with, my department chair, at the school where I teach, and she passed away this year, sadly, but she was also a huge, like, Tool fan, and she and I would
That's
sit
so
in the office
cool.
and listen to it until
Very cool.
I
we had
knew it.
finished
I
our
knew it
report
was
cards.
oh, that that is
We
so
would we
freaking
would listen
cool.
to Tool super loud writing report card reflections.
Again,
Oh, that's
most
so good.
interesting man on the earth. I was like, "I'm gonna ask him because I know it's gonna be like he's not gonna be like, Led Zeppelin." No, it's freaking Tool, folks.
Well, I think, like, I the both of my parents loved music, like, they were kids of the
Yeah.
'60s, and the
Mhm.
'50s, and so rock and roll came in. We listened to everything when I was a kid growing up, and the students are like, "What's your favorite band?" And I'm like, or, "What's your favorite kind of music?" And I'm like, "Good music, like anything,"
Absolutely.
like, I
Excellent
don't
Passionate
care if
answer.
music.
it's yeah, as long as it's good music, I'm
Yep.
down, like, let's hear it.
Right? Oh, gosh, that is
Nice.
so cool. So the question and I've been wanting to ask you that from early, and I'm like, I bet it's gonna be something not expected, and I love it. What is one of the kindest things anyone's ever done for you? Doesn't have to be the most, but something whatever pops into your mind right now.
Yeah, I mean, listening to myself talk today, I think the kindest thing that anybody's ever done for me is to love somebody that maybe doesn't seem lovable.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. Mm.
Like, the first man that I worked with in AA, like, taught me gave me a new blueprint on, like, how to live, like, a new way to live, and
Mhm.
he didn't do that out of spite or like necessity. He did it because he was there and he could see that anybody's like worth a little bit of love and can be saved and
Mm,
my sisters and all the stuff that I put people through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
grateful that they could that I'm coming out. I'm coming out on the other side. I'll
absolutely.
never be there. I'll be all the way there, but I'll just keep pushing through.
Absolutely. Wow. And I wanted to tell you, Richard, I'm also friends with Bill, and I'm in my 13th year as well. So twinsies. We
Yeah,
should
that's
have
awesome.
uh I never have said twinsies before like that, so that was weird, and I apologize. I just got really excited. Girl. I was so moved. This has just been
A delight.
it was such a ride. Like,
I
oh my
know.
gosh. And the tears and the goosebumps, and you were in the Arctic and okay.
What a
Um
life.
what a life. And now you get to do it without a drink or a drug, you know?
Yeah,
And that's
And
the power.
and now you get to share all your experiences with kids that you're helping shape and to be these amazing adults that will
yeah.
Yeah.
hopefully be
Well, I
taking
mean,
care of all of us one day.
Mhm.
it's stupid and corny, but that wasn't the plan.
That wasn't the plan,
Never
girl.
is. It never
And you also
is.
got to share your story with two bodacious middle-aged animal freaks. And apparently we need to go to the Arctic because the two of us
I
were like,
need yeah.
"What?"
I need to
Oh,
book
I don't
a
know.
tour
I
up
don't know.
there.
I don't overly romanticize it. There's a lot of mosquitoes and weird things
Oh
happening up
god.
there.
Tell me one weird thing that like sticks with you that you're like, there's something going on here.
Okay, like, think of,
Yes.
like, the freakiest people you've ever met, like, just the freakiest
Oh,
person that
yeah.
you've ever met, and then think about them amplified, like, maybe 50 times. You're gonna meet that person in the Arctic because that's where they all go.
That's where they go.
They all go to live up there. Like, I met this guy that worked for the Department of Fish and Game, and, he was weird. I was like who so we're flying around in a helicopter tracking a grizzly bear, because I got to do, like, this ride along with him,
Oh my
uh,
god.
to capture this orphan bear to change her radio collar, and so that's this guy's job, is to change radio collars on bears, and the
Wow.
casual conversation that we're having, I'm like, "Where do you live?" And he's like, "Oh, I live in some unincorporated part of Fairbanks," and, like, he kinda lives off the land, and I'm like, "And
Yeah.
so, like, what are some of the things that you're into?" And he's like, "Well, I'm really into Patricia Nixon." Like, Richard Nixon's wife. This guy is a guy who's, like, maybe, I don't know, a year older than me or something, and he was completely obsessed with Pat Nixon, and I'm like, I can't picture her in my mind, but I also don't think she's, like, a supermodel or something, and, like, this guy was like, "Oh god, just to have a night with Patricia Nixon," and I'm like, "That is so weird." Like, it really is on the scale it's, like, troubling, like, and I'm, like, stuck in a helicopter with this guy, and we're about to go and
It's
trap a grizzly
troubling.
bear. Yeah, that's what I mean, weird, like, the weirdest people you've ever met your whole
I
life are up
love
there.
that though. That's
Oh my
amazing.
god.
It's like,
Just
God,
I
Patricia.
imagine if you're isolated in a place without towns,
Yeah.
people, anything, and the temperature and the light and the sky, yeah, that would do something to you. Probably make you
Yeah, I think
crazy a little bit.
I like it.
ironically, the only sane people that are up there are the natives, the indigenous peoples that have lived there
Right?
for
Makes
hundreds and
sense.
thousands of years,
Gosh.
the
Yeah.
Inupiat, and, like, they're doing it right up there, but they're not
Mm.
obsessed with Pat Nixon either. That's weird.
I please, Emily, when you edit this, will you put up a picture of Patricia Nixon?
I will do
Because
that. Yes.
I thought
Yeah.
I was thinking Cynthia Nixon from Sex and the City, and I was like,
Oh,
huh. So yeah, but she's a lovely lady too. But anyhow, that is
Pat
see
Nixon.
that's real. Like I feel like there's a lot of Patricia Nixon freaks around here, but they're just not talking about it. This guy was like, eh,
Yeah, I
this is
don't
what I
know if
got.
maybe he was from Orange County or something. I think that's where Nixon
Ah.
lived at his days, but I'm not sure.
It could be.
Oh, okay. So, wow. I like
Interesting.
that. That's excellent.
Wow. Well, Richard, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your
Truly.
story. Oh my
So
God.
beautiful.
anybody has any questions for Richard, you can always email us and we can get in touch with him. Our email is thatwasn'ttheplanpod@gmail.com. You can always find us on social media. But Courtney, Richard, thank you so much for today. This was a delight. Oh
This
my
was
gosh.
absolutely wonderful.
Thank
It's
you.
changed my day completely.
I
So
know. And
Yeah.
next time I'm
thank
in
you.
San Francisco, I'm going to call you and we can get together.
Yeah,
Let's
for
all
sure.
go.
That'd be
Yeah.
I'll
great.
go to the Arctic. Ah! Spend 3 months in tents. Ah! Okay, sorry. I'm chill. I really am, Richard. I'm like so chill. I'm like you. I'm chill.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
can see that.
Yeah, you get it. You get it. I'm like low key. You know what I mean?
Well, I think
Well,
sobriety affects us all differently.
It's so true. I never really knew how to party until I got sober.
Mhm.
Because every day is a freaking party. It's pretty magical.
I love that.
Well,
Well,
thank you
thank you
guys too.
both. And until
Absolutely.
next time, listeners, thank you for tuning in. Bye, everyone.
Adios.
Thanks for listening to That Wasn't the Plan. If you found it helpful, or at least mildly entertaining, a quick rating, review, and a click on the subscribe button would be lovely. And it genuinely helps us. And if a friend comes to mind, please share. Until next time, bye.